Previously, the Li clan defeated the Shanyue raiders, captured their chieftain, and survived a painful loss with the death of Li Mutian. Li Xiangxia finally entered the Qi refining realm, while a sacrifice to the ancient mirror awakened a mysterious power and drew the attention of distant immortal cultivators. Now, 5 years have passed. A far greater Shanyue army is marching east. Qingchi Sect refuses to intervene, and the Li clan is about to face its most dangerous enemy yet. Let's continue with Reborn as an Ancient Mirror, Episode 12. Enough. The cultivator who had asked the question shook his head, a trace of loneliness in his expression. Qi Wei may be a despicable man, but he was still a genius who dominated an entire generation. Bah! The hot-tempered purple mansion cultivator spat viciously and shouted, I only hope he dies soon. The sooner the better. That wretch! Another man laughed and said mockingly, Junior brother, do you really think our Golden Feather sect has always acted with clean hands? There is no need to condemn him so harshly. The irascible cultivator fell silent. Only after a long while did he slowly let out a sigh. A strand of gray-green energy shot from the mirror. Guided by Lu Zhangxian's divine sense, it descended upon Li Xiangping, circled once around him, and entered the rising Yang palace within his body. Lu Zhangxian's vision immediately blurred. Several large lines of text appeared before him. At the top was a line of deep crimson calligraphy. A fierce, murderous aura seemed to surge straight from the characters. Strength to pierce 1,000 armies. In the center was a line of pale gray text twisting like a long serpent. Prolonged years and enduring life. The final line was pale green and written in a clean, orderly hand. Evade death and extend life. Lu Zhangxian understood at once. The mirror was asking him to choose the power that the gray-green essence would bestow. He considered the 3 options for a moment. Li Xiangping was the head of the Li clan, so Lu Zhangxian chose evade death and extend life. Only someone carrying a mystic pearl talisman could receive a gift shaped by his own innate nature. If the gray-green essence entered an ordinary person, it could only increase that person's cultivation and improve the foundation of his body. Below, Li Xiangping's entire body trembled. His aura rose again and again. Only the previous year, he had been at the 5th stage of the embryonic breathing realm. Now his cultivation advanced another level and reached the peak of the realm. A line of pale green words suddenly appeared within his mind. Evade death and extend life. Before he could react, Li Xiangxia had already turned toward him in concern. Li Xiangxia raised a hand, signaling that the sacrificial ceremony had ended. Li Xiangping closed his eyes and sank into thought. Only after everyone had dispersed did he recover his senses. He looked at Li Xiangxia and said quietly, We will speak after we return to the mountain. The two hurried back up Mount Lijing. Li Xiangxia swept Li Xiangping with his spiritual sense and immediately discovered that his younger brother had reached the peak of the embryonic breathing realm. His voice dropped. It was actually gray essence? Li Xiangping nodded and told him everything he had seen. The two brothers rejoiced for a time, but before long, a clan soldier arrived with another report. More Shanyue refugees were fleeing east. In the years since Jia Nixi began his eastern campaign, he had shattered one tribe after another. More and more members of the Shanyue mountain tribes had fled eastward. Sometimes only a few dozen came. At other times, several hundred appeared at once. Li Xiangping had no choice but to station clan soldiers west of Lichuan Pass. He often remained there himself, guarding against desperate Shanyue bands that might raid the villages. What is the situation? Li Xiangping asked. The clan soldier answered. We heard there are several hundred of them. They are attacking our battle formation now. The population under the Li clan's rule had grown beyond 15,000 over the past several years. Roughly 2,000 of those people were Shanyue refugees, while the clan's standing force had expanded to 1,000 soldiers. It was no longer a small army. Come, we are going to Lichuan Pass. Li Xiangping nodded, exchanged a glance with Li Xiangxia, and hurried down the mountain. By the time Li Xiangping reached Lichuan Pass, the battle was already drawing to an end. A huilat stood out clearly amid the fighting. He swung his great hammer and chased the retreating enemy warriors through the formation. In the years since scattered Shanyue war bands first began crossing the border, Li Xiangping had stationed a huilat at Lichuan Pass. Whenever tribes familiar to him appeared, a huilat would go forward and try to persuade them to surrender. He had also fought bravely in several battles and earned the respect of the clan soldiers. Li Xiangping had gradually become less wary of him. Which wave of Shanyue refugees is this already? Li Xiangping frowned as he gazed toward the distant mountains. A sense of unease rose within him. Li Chuyang answered solemnly from beside him. Clan Lord, this is the 6th group this year. Dust covered Li Chuyang from head to toe. He had likely only just arrived himself. He had now reached the 4th stage of the embryonic breathing realm. He had married a woman of the Chen clan and had 1 son and 1 daughter. The years had made him far more mature than before. Li Xiangping nodded and turned toward the small courtyard. Before going inside, he left Li Chuyang one instruction. Once the field has been cleared, send a hulat to see me. Li Xiangping set down the talisman brush in his hand and silently studied the cloth spread across the table. Several years earlier, he had broken through to the 5th stage of the Embryonic Breathing Realm, the Jade Capital Wheel. He had now reached the peak of the realm and had long since become capable of drawing talismans. Li Jingchen was adding oil to the lamp. The girl was now 12 years old. She had grown quickly and moved with nimble grace, already blossoming into a poised and elegant young woman. Lu Jiangxian had created 6 talisman seeds. The 3 Li brothers had each used one. 2 more had been given to Li Xuanyuan and Li Xuanfeng. The final seed had naturally been reserved for Li Tongya's daughter.
Clan Lord! A huilat requests an audience!
Chen Donghe entered the courtyard in leather armor, a sword hanging across his back. He carried himself with youthful vigor. His gaze paused for the briefest instant on Li Jingdian's face beside the window, before he lowered his eyes and delivered the report in a solemn voice. Chen Donghe appeared 17 or 18 years old and had reached the 3rd stage of the Embryonic Breathing Realm. He was rather handsome and bore some resemblance to Chen Erniu. Let him enter. A huilat no longer wore strings of beast teeth across his body. He had exchanged them for the fur clothing commonly worn around Li Jingtown. The moment he entered the courtyard, he called out loudly, "Great King! Great King! Something terrible has happened!" Behind him, the corner of Chen Donghe's mouth twitched. He suppressed the urge to strike the man across the back of the head, lowered his face, and used a huilat's broad body to shield himself from Li Xiangping's view. From the corner of his eye, he stole another glance at Li Jingtian. She stood beside the window trimming the lamp wick. Warm yellow light flickered across her cheeks. Her beauty was not delicate or fragile. It was clean and striking. Her features possessed a heroic sharpness, while her eyes had inherited Tianyun's softness, giving her an unexpectedly endearing appearance. What happened? Li Xiangping watched Li Jingtian tending the lamp by the window. The faintest curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. He found Chen Donghe's behavior rather amusing. After reaching the 5th stage of the Embryonic Breathing Realm, the Jade Capital Wheel, a cultivator awakened spiritual sense. Li Xiangping did not need to look with his eyes to know everything taking place within the courtyard. An old brother of mine crossed Great Fish Stream and came to warn me last night. A huilat swallowed. He said Jia Nixi has crushed his enemies. In only a few days, he will be free to march east. His words sent a shock through everyone present. Li Xiangping and Chen Donghe both stiffened. Even Li Jingtian turned away from the window and listened with a grave, worried expression. What strength does Jia Nixi command now? Li Xiangping asked, his brow drawn tight. A huilat lowered his head and answered gloomily. Jia Nixi has reached the middle stage of the Qi refining realm. He has united all 100,000 Shanyue living along the northern foothills of Mount Li. He should be able to mobilize 5,000 or 6,000 warriors. 4 human shamans in the Qi refining realm now obey his commands. Each of them can consume the spiritual energies of heaven and earth. He also has more than 10 officers in the Embryonic Breathing Realm. Fortunately, most of those people are stationed at different points along the northern foothills and have not joined his army. Li Xiangping fell silent for a moment. Then he frowned and said in a low voice, "The Li clan presents tribute to Qingchi Sect every year. We are a cultivation clan under its protection. Jia Nixi may rampage through the northern foothills as he pleases, but does he truly dare march east without restraint? Does he think everyone in Qingchi Sect is already dead?" A huilat immediately dropped to his knees and pressed his forehead against the ground. He spoke with visible fear. According to the tribesmen who escaped from the west, the demon sect, Qingchi Sect will not interfere. Li Xiangping lowered his head. A helpless fury burned within him. Even an ordinary Shanyue soldier knew that Qingchi Sect would not act. Yet he, the head of a clan under Qingchi Sect's rule, knew nothing at all about whatever agreement the two sides had reached. "You may leave for now." A huilat and Chen Dong quickly withdrew. Only after they had gone did Li Xiangping slowly return to the main seat. He closed his eyes and remained silent. "Father," Li Jingtian called softly. She approached, bowed before him, and said, "I fear our family has already become meat upon another person's chopping block. We should prepare while there is still time." Li Xiangping raised his weary eyes. "Continue." Li Jingtian lowered her eyes and spoke softly. "Jia Nixi dares march east without restraint. That means Qingchi Sect and the great shamans of the Shanyue must have reached an agreement. They are transferring territory and mortal populations between them, yet they have deliberately kept the Li clan uninformed. They do not want us to react before it is too late. You are saying that the Li clan has become part of the merchandise being exchanged." Li Xiangping frowned as he looked down at his eldest daughter. "In my judgment, our family will suffer losses of wealth and resources. The people under our protection will also be placed in grave danger. but this should not become a calamity that destroys the entire clan. Youngest uncle is still within the sect, and our family has established a connection with the Shao clan. Qingchi Sect should not abandon us without a word. They have most likely permitted the Shanyue tribes to cross the border and plunder. They cannot have agreed to let the Shanyue exterminate the Li clan. Li Jingtian raised her gaze to meet her father's eyes. Qingchi Sect's exchanges of territory with the different Shanyue factions are not uniform. Many cultivation clans must be involved. Since Qingchi Sect has already completed the transaction, it can only pretend not to see the Shanyue crossing the border. Each clan will be expected to preserve itself through its own strength. Li Xiangping listened until she had finished, then put away the wooden slip in his hand. What do you believe our family should do? Abandon the common people under our rule and conceal the entire clan? Li Jingtian stared directly at him, testing his response. Once the Shanyue finish plundering, they will not remain here. We would need to hide for no more than a day before returning to Mount Lijing. Impossible! Li Xiangping shook his head without hesitation. A smile immediately appeared on Li Jingtian's face, making her round eyes seem even more endearing. If we did that, would the Li clan not become exactly the same as Qingchi Sect? Li Xiangping shook his head again, weariness showing in his expression. When Li Jingtian opened her mouth to continue, he raised a hand and stopped her. I understand. Return to Mount Lijing first. Li Jingtian obediently nodded and withdrew. Li Xiangping clasped his hands behind his back and slowly walked out of the small courtyard. He gazed at the moonlit mountains and forests. An intense premonition pressed upon his heart. Jia Nixi would be the strongest opponent Li Xiangping had faced in all these years. The young Shanyue king possessed not only a sharp instinct for war and an exceptionally cunning mind, but also overwhelming personal strength. What limit did Qingchi Sect set for the Shanyue, and how much time did they give you? Li Qijing stood atop the high gray-white walls of Yishan City and silently watched the tide of beasts surging below. Time had left no visible mark upon his face. He still looked like a young man, though his bearing had become far more mature. 5 years of killing in the southern border had refined his swordsmanship to a far higher level. He had mastered and combined several sword arts from the sect, earning a measure of fame. Everyone now knew that King Wei Peak had produced a little sword immortal, whose skill with the sword was terrifyingly sharp. Li Qijing wiped the blood from his longsword. Facing the rising sun, he exhaled a ring of pure white spiritual energy through his lips. Yishan City truly is formidable. A Qingchi Sect disciple behind him spoke with a light laugh. A pearl-shaped artifact floated up and down in his hand. It was Dung Chuji. Li Qijing nodded and swallowed the spiritual medicine in his palm. He continuously adjusted the spiritual power within his body, trying to recover as quickly as possible and ease the strain within his revolving spiritual energy. What a remarkable coincidence. Deng Chuji laughed coldly. Of all the places they could have assigned us, we were sent to Yishan City, where every beast tide is fiercer than the last. The sarcasm in his voice made the cultivators around them glance in his direction. Li Qijing remained unmoved and continued regulating his breath. Deng Chuj sat down on the ground and muttered, "But if they intend to devour both you and me, then these people are merely being buried alongside us." He's gone mad again. Are all members of the Deng clan like this? The surrounding cultivators whispered among themselves and looked at Deng Chuji strangely. Li Qijing frowned. Enough. Recover your spiritual power quickly. Unless you want me to save you again when the next attack comes. Deng Chuji stared at him for a moment, then laughed and shook his head. A wave of cheering suddenly rose from below. They're retreating! The beast tide is finally retreating! The current assault had at last withdrawn. The cultivators had gained another chance to breathe. They cheered and began descending from the walls. A smile also appeared on Li Qijing's face. He climbed down the nearby ladder while considering what he should write in his next letter to the family. Deng Chuji shamelessly followed close behind. Bathed in the brilliant light of the rising sun, he asked, "Do you not find any of this strange? What is strange about it?" Li Qijing frowned and put away the blue-white sword in his hand. He looked at Deng Chuji with a teasing smile. "Why have you become so talkative lately? Has your cultivation art grown so profound that it is driving you into qi deviation?" The two had fought side by side in the southern border for 5 years. After sharing countless moments between life and death, Deng Chuji and Li Qijing had long forgotten the petty disputes of the past. They now regarded each other as trusted friends. "Every time you and I reach the point of complete exhaustion, the beast tide obediently withdraws." Deng Chuji smiled, but his eyes carried a deeper meaning. How could there be so many coincidences? When life and death are before us, who could possibly hold anything back? Li Qijing dismissed the idea and smiled as he greeted a cultivator passing nearby. "It is not only you and me. Which sect disciple on these walls has not fought until his strength was exhausted? Think about it. Deng Chuji patted him on the shoulder and lowered his voice. If you were one of the demon kings of the southern border, would you send tens of thousands of wild beasts and demonic creatures here to die for no reason? Would it not be better to consume their demon cores yourself and increase your cultivation? Instead, these creatures are driven all the way to Yishan City, delivering their demon cores into the hands of the 3 sects and 7 gates. What kind of fool would do that? And if the demon kings truly wanted to kill the sect disciples, they could simply keep the beast tide advancing until we were ground to death. Why send one wave after another like idiots, even giving us time to rest between attacks? No matter how I look at it, they are feeding us resources. Li Qijing merely smiled and greeted another passing cultivator, deliberately cutting Deng Chuji off. Deng Chuji glared in frustration, leaned closer to Li Qijing's ear, and whispered, "Do you know when Yishan City was last breached?" A smile remained on Li Qijing's face as he answered quietly. 25 years ago. Many disciples of the 3 sects and 7 gates died. Among them was the Foundation establishment cultivator Yu Shi, who practiced the azure mist reflecting moon art and had once consumed Taiyan moonlight. Deng Chuji froze. Shock filled his eyes. "You already knew?" "Of course I knew." Li Qijing nodded with a faint smile. The two said nothing more as they walked up the mountain and entered Li Qijing's cave residence. Once Deng Chuji had followed him inside, Li Qijing formed a hand seal and isolated the interior from the outside world. Only then did he turn and look silently at his companion. "I have been trapped in this accursed place for 5 years. I have read every technique manual and secret record in the city. When I connected them with what happened at Junlin Plain, it was impossible not to see that something was wrong. I simply do not know when they intend to act, or how long they plan to continue fattening me." He studied Deng Chuji. "But how did you learn the truth?" Deng Chuji clenched both fists and spoke through gritted teeth. "Qingchi Sect lost the inheritance of Taiyan moonlight long ago. The Deng clan possesses a special constitution, so the sect forced generation after generation of my family to cultivate that secret method. They raised us into medicinal supplements, spiritual commodities to be traded to the demon kings of the southern border. In the past, the secret art was incomplete. Every member of the Deng clan who practiced it went mad. Over the course of several hundred years, we gradually improved the method. It no longer truly damages our minds, but we must still pretend to be foolish and unstable." Li Qijing remained silent. He removed the feathered robe from his shoulders, sat beside the stone table, swirled the tea in his cup, and took a sip. Deng Chuji released a deep sigh. After a pause, he continued, "I examined every spiritual medicine and pill the sect gave me. All of them seep into the body and remain there. They are refining a human pill." "A human pill?" Li Qijing filled both cups and smiled. "I wonder which demon king of the southern border is preparing for a breakthrough. This is an enormous undertaking." Seeing the smile on Li Qijing's face, Deng Chuji unexpectedly relaxed. He said irritably, "You can still laugh? What else can I do?" Li Qijing shook his head. "Qingchi Sect is too powerful. You and I no longer have any path of retreat. If I die in the southern border for no apparent reason, the outside world will be told that I sacrificed myself for the sect. At the very least, my family may receive some compensation. What alternative do I have? Find an excuse to flee and provoke them into exterminating my clan?" Deng Chuji drank from his cup and lowered his head in anger. "Even so, are you and I truly meant to end our lives for no reason? Were we born only to become food in a demonic beast's mouth?" The smile faded from Li Qijing's face. Loneliness entered his expression. "They hold the knives, and we are the meat upon the chopping block. But even meat must understand what it means to be meat. Has the Deng clan not endured in silence for generation after generation? Qingchi Sect has flourished for 500 years. Can it truly remain prosperous for all eternity? One day it will decline. As long as our families survive and continue accumulating strength in silence, a day will come when the hatred of 9 generations can finally be repaid. Cultivators live long lives. A grievance formed today is rarely avenged tomorrow. Every generation has its own duty." Li Qijing slowly rose and looked at the sword in his hand. "The duty of our generation is to let Qingchi Sect eat its fill, so our clans can gain another chance to breathe. What else can we possibly do? Break through to the Purple Mansion realm like characters in some heroic tale, then force Qingchi Sect to withdraw its command. We will take one step at a time." Deng Chuji sat down cross-legged and spoke dejectedly. "In any case, neither of us dares flee. If you and I escape from Yishan City, our relatives at home will be finished." At the very moment, Li Xiangping raised his head toward the distant mountains. The shrill cry of a horse rang from a nearby peak. A stallion as black as ink galloped joyfully across the mountain. Not a single hair of another color could be found upon its body. Its 4 hooves never touched the ground. It ran above the rugged path as though treading upon open air. The creature was a demonic beast in the Qi refining realm. Its dark hooves struck lightly above a muddy pool, and the stallion rose into the air. Only then could the rider upon its back be seen clearly. He wore leather armor, but no ornaments of beast bone or jade adorned his body. At first glance, he looked almost like an ordinary man from the settled lands. Jia Nixi gently patted the head of his old companion, pressed his legs against the horse's sides, and turned to look at the village beneath the mountain. The Shanyue of the northern foothills claimed that Jia Nixi had 4 eyes and 8 arms. In truth, his appearance was remarkably ordinary. His eyes were even somewhat small, and his eyebrows were thin and sparse. If he closed his eyes and stood with his hands upon his hips in the middle of a field, no one would imagine that he was a person of any importance. Only when those amber-brown eyes opened and fixed silently upon another person did a chill crawl through the heart. Great King, the territory of the demon sect lies ahead. The follower behind him wore his hair in a long braid. Jia Nixi raised an eyebrow and swept his golden eyes across the army formation beneath the mountain. He stroked his chin. To break them would require 15 minutes. His voice was soft and unusually high, while his tone remained flat, as though he were merely reading words from a page. The long-braided man lowered his head and listened in silence. No other soldiers could be seen behind them. Jia Nixi was the Shanyue king who had united the northern foothills, yet he had entered Qingchi Sect's territory with only a single follower, and stopped barely 300 zheng Li Xiangping's military camp. After looking down for a few moments, Jia Nixi lost interest in the clan soldiers. He pressed his knees against the horse. The stallion obediently turned and retraced its path, moving across the rugged mountain road as though it were level ground. We do not have much time. We should not wait any longer. The braided follower urged his horse forward and caught up. After hesitating, he said, "The people of the settled lands are cunning. We do not know how many human shamans are hidden within this demon sect army. Great King, you must not underestimate them." Jia Nixi gave a low laugh. He lifted the long saber in his hand and looked toward the moon hidden behind black clouds. His lips moved. Who said I intended to attack him? When Chen Xianxue awoke in a daze, a Shanyue warrior in leather armor stood directly before him. A large hand had seized the front of his robe and pulled it so tightly that he could barely breathe. With a dull thud, Chen Xianxue was hurled out of the courtyard. Stars exploded across his vision. The impact knocked 2 teeth from his mouth, and the world spun around him. Shanyue soldiers stood in orderly ranks on both sides. Chen Xianxue wiped the blood from his face and began feeling around for his missing teeth. A foot came down upon his hand. He looked up into a pair of amber-brown eyes. Only then was he forced to confront the brutal truth. During the brief time he had been asleep, Lichuan Pass had fallen without offering the slightest resistance. How could it happen so quickly? Where were the clan soldiers Li Xiangping had stationed on the far bank of the river? Had they truly been defeated without making a sound? Where was Li Xiangxia, who could walk through the sky? Where were the other immortals of the Li clan? How had these people seized Lichuan Pass without creating the slightest disturbance? Chen Xianxue's chest tightened. He forgot the pain in his mouth as countless questions raced through his mind. Where is the Li clan's nest? The man standing upon his hand asked the question calmly. Chen Xianxue stared at the sparse eyebrows and those terrifying eyes, but another thought still occupied his mind. What would my father Chen Ernu do if he were here? He was given no more time to think. Jia Nixi casually seized his left arm and tore it away. Blood sprayed out with strands of sinew and flesh. Chen Xianxue's eyes rolled back. Saliva poured uncontrollably from his mouth as the pain drowned every thought in his mind. It hurts so much. Jia Nixi placed a hand upon his head and formed a spell seal. Chen Xianxue's consciousness became clear once more, forcing him to experience every instant of the suffocating agony. At the same time, Jia Nixi held his remaining vitality in place so he would not bleed to death. Mount Lijing, the desire to become a hero struggled within Chen Xianxue's heart for no more than an instant. The filth spreading beneath his body reminded him of the truth. He was an ordinary man. He was not a death warrior incapable of fearing pain. He was not his father. He was not Li Xiangping. Even Li Xiangping might not have endured any better if placed in the same position. Lead us there. Chen Xianxue was lifted from the ground and carried upside down. He watched the feet of the surrounding Shanyue warriors moving around him. For more than 20 years, Chen Ernu's bitter lessons had tried to cultivate a fatal instinct within his son. Only now did that instinct finally awaken. Chen Xianxue understood with perfect clarity that he would not survive. As he remembered the absurd and wasted things he had done throughout his life, a desolate emptiness filled his heart. Shanyue troops moved on every side. Simple runes had been carved around their ankles, allowing them to travel without making the slightest sound. 2 companies followed Jia Nixi out of Lichuan Pass and continued toward Mount Lijing. Chen Xianxue saw that the braided Shanyue man behind Jia Nixi was also carrying a captive, one of the village's leading figures. He immediately understood that giving them a false route would only prolong his suffering. He cursed inwardly. What a cunning pack of animals! Chen Sanxue had grown up beside the Li brothers, just as his father, Chen Ernu, had grown up beside Li Mutian. He had often heard his father describe the four brothers of the Li clan. Li Changhu is gentle and obedient, like a young deer. Li Tongya is quiet and cautious, like a long serpent. Li Xiangping is treacherous and ruthless, like a starving wolf. Li Qijing is clever and handsome, like a white fox. Then what about me? What am I? The young Chen Sanshui had looked at his father, with excitement and expectation written across his face. Useless. Chen Sanshui had been bitterly disappointed. After that, he had truly allowed himself to become useless. He drifted through life, married, had children, and relied upon his father's prestige and influence to indulge himself as he pleased. Only when Jia Nixi tore away his left arm did Chen Sanshui feel as though he had finally awakened. Everything before him became painfully clear. He almost hated Jia Nixi for not coming 10 years earlier and taking his arm then. How often do you exchange messages with those soldiers? Jia Nixi asked lightly. He had already concluded that the man in his hand had been terrified beyond reason and would not dare deceive him. What Jia Nixi did not know was that Chen Sanshui had awakened from 30 years of confusion. The man he held no longer felt like the 30-year-old Chen Sanshui. In that moment, he was more like the 60-year-old Chen Ernu. Every 6 hours. Chen Sanshui's heart was as still as water, though he forced his voice to tremble. For the first time, a trace of peace entered him. After 20 years of fine clothing and plentiful food, he had finally done something that did not betray the clan lord who had provided it all. Mount Li Jing gradually appeared ahead. Jia Nixi reined in his horse. With one casual movement, he twisted Chen Sanshui's head from his body. Sinew, bone, and flesh wound together beneath the torn neck. Fresh blood stained the ground red. Jia Nixi looked at the headless corpse and gave a cold smile. Useless. Heaven and earth spun. Chen Sanshui's head landed softly beside the road. His lifeless eyes stared at the black clouds filling the night sky, while one final thought passed through his mind. Li Xiangping, this is all I could do. This time you have struck an iron wall. After sending Li Jingtian away, Li Xiangping remained deeply uneasy. It felt as though thorns were pressing against his back. Even when he sat upon the bed to cultivate, his mind refused to settle. After several failed attempts to enter meditation, he finally rose. Someone come! Chen Dong had remained outside the command tent in full armor. Hearing the call, he entered immediately. Clan Lord. Have the scouts found anything? Chen Donghe shook his head. It has already been 2 hours. Yet no messenger has come from Lichuan Pass? Li Xiangping frowned. Send someone there and ask what is happening. Chen Donghe acknowledged the order and withdrew. Li Xiangping continued thinking. Jia Nixi only launched his surprise attack and crushed his enemy the day before yesterday. Who would expect him to march east today? That makes no sense. Are the soldiers under his command incapable of exhaustion or death? Besides, I stationed scouts throughout the western mountains. There is no possible way an army could pass without creating the slightest disturbance. He rose and put on his armor. Flames roared within the brazier, their crimson light reflected in his eyes. His heart suddenly missed a beat. Something was wrong. That man has waged war across the northern foothills for decades and won battle after battle. I cannot judge him by ordinary reason. I should bring the army back toward the river first. Li Xiangping sheathed his long saber and slung the azure crow bow across his back. Sound the drums. The messengers immediately carried his command through the camp. War drums thundered from every direction, throwing the encampment into motion. Li Xiangping had only just stepped outside the command tent when Chen Dong came rushing toward him. Clan Lord! Chen Dong hurried close, shock filling his voice. He leaned toward Li Xiangping's ear. Clan Lord, Lichuan Pass has fallen under Shanyue control. Everyone we sent there was killed. 2,000 or 3,000 soldiers are stationed across the river, and they have destroyed several floating bridges. Our road of retreat has been severed. The news struck like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. Li Xiangping froze. For 2 full breaths he could not speak. His grip tightened around the long saber until the weapon trembled and all 5 of his knuckles turned white. Has word spread? Chen Donghe quickly shook his head and lowered his voice. No. I sealed the information and did not dare let the soldiers hear it. I was afraid their morale would collapse. Li Xiangping released a long breath. Go and form the ranks. Chen Donghe withdrew with a grave expression. Li Xiangping closed his eyes and calculated in silence. I cannot take 1,000 soldiers east and attempt to recapture Lichuan Pass. Jia Nixi could not possibly have brought only 2,000 men into this region, and he is a qi refining cultivator himself. He crushed his enemy and immediately launched a lightning advance. His rear lines must still be unstable. Rather than remain trapped here, I should probe westward. Every moment we stay makes our position more dangerous. Li Xiangping paced slowly to the rear of the tent and studied the map. After calculating for a time, he removed the storage pouch from his waist. Mountains of grain and beans collected as taxes streamed into the small pouch. The old Taoist storage pouch contained only enough space to fill a modest courtyard, and the provisions barely fit inside. Li Xiangping walked before the assembled clan soldiers and drew a long breath. Then he clenched his teeth and shouted 2 words. March west. The entire army immediately broke camp. 800 Li clan soldiers and 200 Shanyue warriors formed a force of 1,000 men. Without looking back, they entered the forest to the west. Jia Nixi's army had only just crossed into the territory of Lijing village when the aura of his qi refining cultivation became impossible to conceal. The disturbance awakened Lu Jiangxian. His divine sense swept across the region from above. It appears Jia Nixi has seized Lichuan Pass and is advancing east to take control of Lijing town. Lu Jiangxian expanded his divine sense to its limit and quickly located the members of the Li clan. Li Tongyao was among the reeds beside the river with his wife Liu Roshuan. They were gathering another portion of pure river qi so that his third brother, Li Xiangping, could eventually break through to the qi refining realm. The two maintained their hand seals while waiting for the precise instant before dawn, when clear energy rose and turbid energy sank. Li Xuanyuan and Li Xuanfeng had finished killing a demonic beast west of Lai Dao Pass. They were comforting the injured villagers. The creature had destroyed part of the road, and men still needed to be sent to repair it. Tian Yun and Lady Ren sat together beside a stove on Mount Lijing quietly talking. Both women had grown older. Lady Ren in particular was now over 40, and could no longer bear to lose much sleep. Li Jingqian leaned beside a window. Her gentle eyes looked anxiously into the distance as the late-night breeze slowly lifted her black hair. Li Xuanling was sleeping obediently on the bed nearby. Lu Jiangshan could sense every cultivator of the Li clan, but his divine sense could only move within the boundaries of Lijing town. After thinking for a moment, he formed an illusion technique and sent it into the sleeping Li Xuanling's mind. Lu Jiangshan's divine sense far surpassed the spiritual sense of an ordinary cultivator. Li Xuanling was only at the second stage of the embryonic breathing realm, the luminous bearing wheel. Lu Jiangshan took control of the boy's dream without resistance. Crack! In his dazed sleep, Li Xuanling heard the piercing sound of porcelain shattering. He awoke from the dream drenched in sweat and sat upright, staring blankly toward the empty windowsill. A pair of soft, pale hands carefully gathered the broken pieces of a teapot from the floor. Li Jingqian spoke apologetically. Linger, did I wake you? Cold wind touched Li Xuanling's sweat-soaked body and immediately cleared his mind. He answered hoarsely. Elder sister, I dreamed that many people died. Jia Nixi defeated uncle, led his army up the mountain and killed many members of our family. The worry in Li Jingqian's expression deepened. Li Xuanling's words described the very fear that had kept her awake all night. She forced a smile and gently tried to comfort him. Li Xuanling held his head and answered her distractedly. After several silent breaths, he hesitated. I need to relieve myself. He slid from the bed, crossed the doorway, slipped beyond Li Jingqian's line of sight, and quietly headed toward the rear courtyard. The moment he entered, he saw a single wooden chair standing alone in the center. Li Xuanling pursed his lips as he remembered Li Mutian. He pushed open the door to the ancestral chamber. A dense scent of sandalwood entered his nose. The candles burned dimly, their faint light crossing over a tall, cold stone pedestal. The bronze-green mirror above it was still covered in flowing white moonlight. Li Xuanling stood on the tips of his toes. His hands passed through the slightly cold moonlight as he carefully lifted the Dharma mirror. Only then did he discover that the artifact felt warm and smooth in his hands, almost soothing to the touch. Remembering his father's instructions, Li Xuanling raised the Dharma mirror and spoke with solemn concentration. This disciple of the Li clan, Li Xuanling, looks up to receive profound grace. I respectfully invoke the wondrous art of Xianming. May the Taiyan profound light descend, destroy the wicked and rebellious, cleanse corruption and suppress all demons. Lu Jiangshan silently nodded and released the mirror's vision. Li Xuanling immediately felt his body rise gently into the air. In the next instant, his perception soared high above Lijing town, looking down upon the clan estate below. The moonlit night appeared peaceful. Lijing town remained deep in sleep. Li Xuanling extended his vision into the distance, and saw Lichuan Pass filled with Shanyue warriors, their hair cropped and their bodies tattooed. 2 companies of Shanyue soldiers in leather armor were already marching south. Their route pointed directly toward Lijing town. Their purpose could not have been clearer. Cold sweat poured down Li Xuanling's body. He shook his head and finally broke free from the distant vision. Clutching the Dharma mirror tightly to his chest, he rushed from the rear courtyard. Elder sister, we have to leave! Li Xuanling charged into the eastern courtyard, crossed the doorway, seized Li Jingtian's hand, and pulled her toward the front residence. Li Jingtian stared at him in alarm. What happened? There is no time to explain. Jia Nixi's soldiers will reach Mount Lijing in less than 15 minutes. Just trust me. The words struck Li Jingchen like a blow. She quickly tied up her long black hair, retrieved a slender dagger from the bed, and concealed it within her sleeve as they moved. Have you warned Mother and the others? Li Xuanling tied a long saber across his back and nodded. I already sent a clan soldier to call them. I ordered the few guards remaining at the front to escort them down the mountain immediately. Then I returned to the eastern courtyard to find you. The two hurried out of the eastern courtyard. Li Jingchen had never cultivated and could not move quickly. Li Xuanling cast a lightness art upon his legs, lifted her into his arms and rushed down the mountain. Li Jingchen tucked her hair behind one ear and watched the scenery fly past on both sides. Her mind was filled with worry for her father, Li Xiangping. When she looked up at Li Xuanling, intense envy flashed through her eyes. If only I possessed a spiritual aperture. After traveling for a short distance, Li Xuanling used the Dharma mirror to examine Jia Nixi's movements. One Shanyue force had already entered Lijing town and was moving to control nearly every exit. Another unit was cunningly climbing the mountain from a different direction at the foot of the slope, preventing anyone above from escaping toward Jingyang village. Without the Dharma mirror, Li Xuanling would certainly have run directly into that force. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and cursed under his breath. Jia Nixi truly is cunning. Li Xuanling changed direction and increased his speed. He barely slipped through the tightening encirclement and made it down the mountain. At the foot of Mount Lijing, he found a small house, climbed over the wall, and carried Li Jingtian inside. A layer of gray dust covered the narrow bed, suggesting that the owner had been gone for a long time. Li Xuanling kicked open the inner door, and the two entered the room. Li Jingtian searched the cupboards and found 2 sets of plain white clothing. She and Li Xuanling changed immediately. Li Jingtian was 12 or 13, likely close in age to the daughter who had once lived in the house, so the clothing fit her well. Li Xuanling's body had not yet grown enough. Li Jingtian had to cut down his garments with the dagger until they fit him well enough to wear. She then sliced apart their discarded silk robes and hid the pieces beneath the bed. A rush of footsteps sounded outside. They listened carefully. The dense, chaotic steps hurried past and gradually faded into the distance. Only then did Li Xuanling raise his head. He stared at Li Jingchen's striking heroic features and spoke in a voice that still carried the softness of childhood. Elder sister, your bearing is far too remarkable. Li Jingchen understood at once. She nodded, found a basin of water in the courtyard, and washed away the cosmetics from her face. Then she drew her brows together and deliberately relaxed her expression, trying to appear timid and ordinary. Li Xuanling pursed his lips. Her natural presence was too refined. No matter what she did, she could not make herself unattractive. The heroic sharpness had faded, but it was replaced by a delicate vulnerability that made her appear even more captivating. Li Xuanling could only click his tongue helplessly. After considerable effort, the two finally resembled ordinary residents of the town. Li Jingchen stood on the tips of her toes and looked outside. The mist maze formation is no more than a minor trick before Jia Nixi. Fortunately, we have already come down from the mountain. We only need to hide here for 1 day and 1 night. Jia Nixi will certainly be forced to withdraw by then. Li Xuanling nodded. He quietly touched the Dharma mirror hidden against his chest. Its warmth gave him a measure of reassurance. On Mount Lijing, Jia Nixi narrowed his eyes as he listened to his subordinate's report. A faint smile appeared on his face. He led the army across the mountains? Yes. Jia Nixi raised an eyebrow and glanced at the cold stone pedestal. Candles and incense still burned around it. He kicked over the offering table. Crash! The table collapsed. Fruit offerings rolled across the floor. Jia Nixi's golden pupils narrowed into vertical slits. He gently ran his hand across the smooth, empty surface of the stone pedestal, and a mocking curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. Mu Xiaoman, what kind of artifact requires offerings? The long-braided Shanyue man behind him shook his head and examined the surroundings cautiously. After considering the question for several breaths, he answered, "The subordinate has only heard of one great tribe on Junlin Plain that worships a wooden statue. It is said to possess strange and miraculous powers. So the Li clan possesses a treasure." Jia Nixi laughed twice and slowly left the courtyard. Mu Xiaoman followed behind him. The artifact must be with their army now. It is fortunate that we did not attack them carelessly, or we would certainly have fallen into the demon sect's trap. Jia Nixi walked through the main residence and the adjoining courtyards. He watched his men overturning chests and pulling out clothing. Then he touched the bedding, which still held a trace of warmth, and nodded thoughtfully. Those children are perceptive. He stepped forward and looked down upon Lijing town at the foot of the mountain. Folding his arms across his chest, he considered the situation for a moment before raising his voice. Take every child of the settled folk between 7 and 15 years old. Do not leave a single one behind." Mu Xiaoman acknowledged the command. The two left the Li clan estate. Jia Nixi suddenly stopped and said with a light smile, "Pay particular attention to children in expensive clothing or those with unusually attractive faces. Have the men examine them carefully. The moment they discover cultivation on anyone, seize that person and bring them directly to me." With that, he mounted his horse and rode down Mount Lijing. Mu Xiaoman hurried after him. "Great king, we do not have much time." Jia Nixi nodded. "Once we have taken the captives and gathered the valuables, we will withdraw. We should leave the demon sect enough dignity to save face. Otherwise, they may send reinforcements, and we will suffer unnecessary losses." The two descended the mountain. Crying had already spread through the town, mixed with the sounds of villagers struggling against Shanyue warriors. Jia Nixi's army maintained strict discipline. They had driven every child and adolescent in the town into one place, filling the streets with terrified screams and sobbing. Ma Xiaoman looked down for a while before saying quietly, "Taking them back as slaves and servants would not be a bad outcome." The moment those words were spoken, Jia Nixi's face darkened. His expression became savage, and a flash of violent killing intent passed through his eyes. His back was turned to the crowd, so no one noticed the change. The clean skin around Jia Nixi's neck had once carried patterns marking him as a slave. He had indeed been enslaved in the past. Later, Jia Nixi slaughtered the entire tribe that had purchased him and forced its shamans to remove the mark from his neck. From that day onward, no matter what achievements he earned, he refused to paint a single new pattern upon his body. Unaware of the reaction, Mu Xiaoman continued, "Some of the young women are quite beautiful. They may be useful." Jia Nixi gave no answer. He slightly raised the long saber in his hand. Mu Xiaoman added, "Great king, you have already united the northern foothills. You should begin considering your descendants. The mountains are filled with ambitious wolves, tigers, and leopards. Once you have an heir, your position will be more secure." Jia Nixi gave a quiet grunt. He pressed his knees against the saddle and turned his horse west. "Then we march west. Let us go play with that man for a while." Excellent archery. Li Xiangping stood upon the corpse of a massive boar demon and stared at its mouth, which resembled a blood-filled basin. He clicked his tongue in admiration. Li Xiangping lowered his longbow and grinned proudly. "You think so? That arrow of mine was no ordinary shot. It was excellent." Li Xiangping nodded, amusement touching the corner of his mouth. "It is only a pity about such a fine hide." Li Xiangping immediately stiffened. He gave an awkward laugh and was about to answer when a clan soldier came rushing toward them. The man had only taken a few steps before the armored guards stopped him. His armor was covered in blood. He dropped to his knees and cried out, "Young clan lord! The Shanyue have captured Lijing town and attacked Mount Lijing." Li Xiangping stared down at him in disbelief. With one hand, he lifted the soldier from the ground. "Do you understand what you are saying?" Xuanfeng. Cold sweat covered Li Xiangping's body, and fear made his hands and feet tremble. He hurriedly pulled Li Xiangping back. Ignoring the blood covering the soldier, Li Xiangping helped him to his feet and demanded, "How could the Shanyue be inside Lijing town? What happened to the clan lord and his soldiers? What happened at Lichuan Pass?" The clan soldier understood the urgency of the situation and answered quickly, "The clan lord and 1,000 soldiers have disappeared. No one knows where they are. We went to Lichuan Pass to ask for reinforcements, but arrows rained down upon us. The Shanyue have taken Lichuan Pass as well." Every hair on Li Xiangping's body rose. He slowly stepped back. Countless terrible images appeared within his mind. He quietly returned the saber in his hand to its sheath and said nothing for several breaths. "Scout Lijing town and Lichuan Pass again." His voice hardened. "Send men to find uncle. There is no need." Li Xiangxia descended through the air and landed beside Li Xiangping. His expression was grave. "I have already gone to Lichuan Pass. 3,000 soldiers are stationed there, supported by one qi refining cultivator. More than 3,000 Shanyue occupy Lijing town, and at least 3 qi refining cultivators are among them." Li Xiangxia had originally been collecting pure river qi beside the river. As he traveled toward the bank near Lichuan Pass, he saw countless torches burning within the village and shadows moving everywhere. Suspicion rose within him. He approached through the air and discovered long-haired, tattooed Shanyue warriors on every side. His heart tightened. The moment he neared the village, a Shanyue cultivator in the qi refining realm rose into the air and sent a mass of dense black mist toward him. Li Xiangxia exchanged several attacks with the man. The profound water sword art, strengthened by river true essence, forced the mountain-born Shanyue cultivator backward again and again. But Li Xiangxia feared that reinforcements would arrive. He had no choice but to withdraw unwillingly.
"The clan lord."
Li Xiangping began anxiously. Li Xiangxia frowned and shook his head. "I was stopped as soon as I approached Lichuan Pass. I saw no army formation along the riverbank, but I also found no trace of a battle. Xiangping must have withdrawn in advance or moved in another direction. Only then did Li Xiangping release a breath. The tension also faded slightly from Li Xiangping's face. Li Xiangxia tapped his storage pouch and produced a jade seal. It was the administrative seal issued by Qingchi Sect. Several small words had appeared upon its surface. Yield for the time being. Li Xiangxia's expression turned ugly as he put the seal away. He had used it to request aid long ago. For nearly an hour, Qingchi Sect had given no response at all. In the end, those few words were the only answer he received. We cannot rely upon Qingchi Sect. For now, we can only watch Jia Nixi's movements and decide how to respond. Li Xuanling and Li Jingtian had only rested for a short while when the front door exploded inward. 10 Shanyue warriors entered one after another. A minor officer followed them with a saber in hand. The moment he saw Li Jingtian, his eyes brightened. He smiled. What a beautiful child. Both children were startled. Li Jingtian could not understand how Jia Nixi had found them here. Yet seeing that only ordinary warriors had been sent made her even more suspicious. Something felt wrong. Li Xuanling clenched his fists and considered the situation in silence. Defeating these men would not be difficult. But it would draw the attention of the Shanyue on the streets. If a Shanyue cultivator comes, escaping will become far more difficult. The Shanyue officer looked the two children up and down. Then he raised a hand. Take them away! Two warriors immediately stepped forward with ropes. Li Xuanling looked toward Li Jingtian. When she gently shook her head, he allowed the men to bind them and lead them away. Li Xuanling twisted slightly. The ropes around his body felt almost weightless. A single exertion of strength would tear them apart. These men had no reason to guard against a 10-year-old child. They had never imagined that Li Xuanling had already reached the second stage of the embryonic breathing realm. The two were led out of the courtyard. Countless children and adolescents filled the street ahead, driven toward the mountain forest like herds of sheep and cattle. A man hovered above the front of the procession. Patterns covered his body, and long braids hung from his head. Key refining. Li Xuanling forced the two words out in the quietest possible voice. He and Li Jingtian were pulled into the forest. Li Xuanling deliberately stumbled, fell sideways into the mud, and splashed filthy water across his face and hair. I have spent a great deal of time below the mountain these past few years. Everyone knows me. Some fool might call out my name. I need to make myself harder to recognize. He rubbed his face against the edge of his robe and kept his head lowered. Looking at Li Jingtian ahead of him, he quietly released a breath. Fortunately, elder sister has rarely left the mountain in recent years. She has lived in seclusion and shown herself to almost no one. Otherwise, a presence as striking as hers could never deceive them. They soon reached Great Fish Stream. Beyond it lay Shanyue territory. Li Xuanling still refused to give up. He quietly touched the mirror hidden against his body, then looked above the procession and released a bitter smile. 3 Qi refining cultivators were traveling through the air. Shanyue soldiers guarded both the front and rear of the column, keeping watch with extreme vigilance. Li Xuanling could only grit his teeth and continue forward. After walking for roughly 1 day and 1 night, a crude military camp finally appeared ahead. Many captives from the settled lands could be seen inside. Wooden shackles bound their ankles as they struggled to transport weapons and provisions. An ordinary mortal would find it nearly impossible to escape from this camp. But a cultivator is different. Once night falls, I can break the shackles with a single kick and quietly take elder sister away. Li Xuanling immediately felt more relaxed. Then he noticed a group waiting ahead. Several Shanyue shamans knelt in a row with chains in their hands. Patterns marking the status of slaves had been painted across their necks. Other warriors came forward and untied the ropes around the captives. The girls and young women were pulled toward a separate area. When Li Jingtian was taken from the crowd, both the Shanyue and the slaves around them released sounds of amazement. Whose daughter is that? She is so beautiful. What a lovely young lady. Mud covered Li Jingtian's face, but it could not conceal the high bridge of her nose or the soft lines of her profile. The clear black eyes she had inherited from Li Xiangping were unlike the dark gray eyes common among the Shanyue. They were exceptionally captivating. Before Li Xuanling could think further, he was dragged into the camp. A Shanyue warrior fastened a heavy wooden kang around his neck. The Shanyue were not skilled at smelting. The small amount of bronze and iron they possessed was needed to forge weapons, so they naturally could not waste metal upon shackles. Instead, they used dense and durable wood. Li Xuanling allowed a tribal shaman to paint slave patterns around his neck. From the corner of his eye, he continued watching Li Jingtian. The long-braided Shanyue cultivator slowly descended from high in the air and landed before the crowd. It was Mu Xiaomen. The shamans beneath him immediately dropped to their knees. Commander. Mu Xiaomen ignored them. He stared at Li Jingtian for some time. She lowered her eyes slightly. Only then did he realize that his left eyelid was twitching. Mu Xiaoman had entered the Qi refining realm decades ago. He possessed such complete control over his flesh and bones that even blades could not easily disturb his movements. He had not experienced an involuntary reaction in years, much less a twitching eye and an unnatural rhythm of breath. Only one word escaped his lips. The tribal shamans around him immediately nodded and smiled ingratiatingly. We understand, Commander. Mu Xiaoman had survived among the tribes for far too long not to understand their meaning. Li Xiangping raised her head in anger. He hurriedly opened his mouth to explain. But the words reached his lips and stopped there. His subordinates quickly led Li Xiangping away. Mu Xiaoman turned aside with a cold expression and rose back into the air. As he walked upon empty space, delight suddenly surged through him so strongly that he almost wanted to dance. Fortunately, he managed to control himself. Without pausing, he continued toward the command tent. Li Xiangping was taken deeper into the camp. Her bonds were removed and the mud was washed from her face. The attendants crushed fruits, leaves, and natural pigments, commonly used by the Shanyue, then painted various patterns across her neck and cheeks. They dressed her in Shanyue clothing decorated with feathers and the fangs of wild beasts. Small pieces of jade glittered among the ornaments. The attire possessed a fierce, untamed beauty. Combined with Li Xiangping's heroic features, it gave her an unexpected air of authority. The elderly attendants stared for a moment. Afterward, even their movements became gentler. By the time the elaborate preparations were complete, darkness had fallen. Li Xiangping was brought toward a dimly lit command tent. Before she reached the curtain, she heard a rough male voice speaking inside. The great king has issued his order and marched west. He said there may be unusual movements in Shazhou and commanded the commander to organize the rear army. You are to take these slaves from the settled lands to Dajue court. This subordinate was ordered to lead 1,000 warriors in pursuit of the army from the settled lands. What was the result? The answering voice was deep and hoarse. Li Xiangping recognized it as belonging to the long-braided Shanyue commander she had seen earlier that day. This subordinate pursued them. The man led his army into the depths of Mount Li without looking back. I feared that continuing would disturb one of the great demons within the mountain, so I withdrew the troops. Mu Xiaoman frowned. His fingers tightened slightly around the bone cup in his hand. You personally led the pursuit, yet still allowed that man to escape? Was he not merely an embryonic breathing cultivator? The kneeling Shanyue officer hurriedly raised his head. He was about to answer when Li Xiangping was pushed through the entrance. The beast bones and jade ornaments upon her clothing struck one another, producing a soft and pleasant chiming sound. The officer turned around warily. The moment he saw her, he froze just as Mu Xiaoman had. The Shanyue lived deep within the mountains. Most Shanyue women they encountered were fierce as wolves and tigers, their bodies covered in mud and hair, their tangled locks knotted into disorder. Neither man had ever seen a young woman with features so refined, brows like painted jade, and eyes as clear as water. Both stared blankly, the same thought rising uncontrollably within them. By the ancestors, I could spend an entire lifetime beside a woman like this. Li Xiangping watched the two men in silence. Both avoided her gaze. The dagger she had concealed was gone, taken when the mud was washed from her body. Outside the tent, she had faintly heard news about her father. Worry filled her heart, but after being pushed inside, she found that neither man spoke to her. The kneeling officer swallowed audibly. The sound pulled Mu Xiaoman back to his senses. He glared at the man and coughed forcefully. He had intended to rebuke Li Xiangping and order her out. Yet when the words reached his lips, they changed. Wait outside for now. Li Xiangping turned and stepped away. Only then did the officer manage to speak again. He. Under Mu Xiaoman's furious stare, the man finally calmed himself and clenched his teeth. That man truly seemed protected by divine aid. He avoided every trap we placed before him. He even lured a demonic beast toward us. The creature ignored the fact that hundreds of men were attacking it, and continued striking our ranks.